Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Emerald Lake Books live stream. I'm Tara Alemany, founder of Emerald Lake Books, and today I have a guest with me. I have brought on one of our authors, Susanna Liller, who has written a book called You Are a Heroine. It is a retelling of the hero's journey, and so it is a book that has gone on to win awards and done all sorts of neat things. But Susanna, I just wanted to invite you on and give you a chance to kind of talk with folks. And I know this book started because you were taking workshops that you had done previously and you converted them into a book. Is that right?
That's right, Tara. And let me just say, it's really, really nice to be here with you. And thank you for having me on.
I'm glad to have you.
Yeah, so I had been doing workshops and retreats for about 12 years and enjoying it very much. But I began to feel like it would be important to write down what I had been doing. And so I started to do that. And it took me 12 years. I mean, it took me 5 years. And I finally got it down and out there, thanks to you and Emerald Lake Books.
So what I thought we would do today is just kind of talk about, what made you decide to use your book for the basis, or your workshops for the basis for a book? What prompted that?
Well, I think back to what I said. I had this urge to just get it down, and I wanted a book that would be easily accessible to women, where they could pick it up. And I put my kind of prize exercises in the book
Mm-hmm.
and put them in there in such a way that they could pick it up and do it on their own. And just to have it available, because I think, and probably a lot of authors think this, that there's valuable information in my book.
So when you had, say, your workshop, you had a certain structure in terms of the content you shared, the narrative you did, the exercises you did. How did you choose what went into the book and what you didn't put in?
Right. Well, again, and you're right that there were many exercises, but what the book is about, the overarching framework, is the heroine's journey.
Mm-hmm.
It's, again, as you told people, a retelling of the hero's journey, which has been around since people were telling stories 3,000 years ago. But it always was told with reference to men. And so I wanted women to see this is your story too. This is a framework that you can put your life in. So because it's such an overarching kind of construct, it seemed to be the perfect thing to um, put the book in that format. So the book is in the format, every chapter, as you go through the heroine's journey, those milestones are in different chapters with examples from 3 women who so graciously allowed me to share their stories.
I think that was one of the things that really appealed to me when I first read the book, was the fact that it wasn't just your exercises, and it wasn't just a workbook for somebody to work through their own experience of what you were sharing, but the fact that you also had other individuals who were sharing their experiences with it as well. I think it made it that much more relatable and approachable, because sometimes if you just have a workbook, it's like, I don't know what to write, and listening to other people's stories gets the creative juices flowing of, oh yeah, I've experienced that, or yeah, I felt exactly that way before, and I think it's great.
I think that women tend to say, oh, yeah, that woman there, she deserves to be a heroine, or that woman, and I wanted people to see how they could take their lives and put it in that same lens and see, this totally applies to you too.
Mm-hmm.
No matter who you are, where you are, it really is for all women.
Now, at the time that you started working on the book, you weren't actually doing the workshops anymore. Is that right?
Right. So that was very hard, because I have been an organizational development consultant for over 25 years. And so I was doing that work, and at the same time doing the workshops for the heroine's journey. And my company's name is Ruby Slippers. And I realized I couldn't keep doing both if I was going to write.
Mm-hmm.
I had always thought that I would stop the consulting and fully focus on my women's empowerment business, but It was the consulting that was bringing in the money that would enable me to write.
Hmm.
I had to stop doing the workshops and retreats, which was really hard, but I did. And so now what I'm in the process of doing is regenerating all of that.
And so you're using the book now, though, to be able to do that, right?
Right, right.
And so, how much has your workshop changed because of the addition of the book compared to what it used to be?
Yeah, what a good question. So I feel like people are able to read the book before they come to the workshop, so they get a really real sense of what I'm about and what I'm talking about, and so it gives them a head start in knowing that this is for them.
Hmm.
Um, and for example, I'm having this retreat in January, and I had a woman write to me today who was reading the book, who said, the book has given her this understanding that there's so much to her that she even realized, which was, my mission is to help women realize there's so much more to them, their potential, than they're actually putting out there, and encouraging them to do that. So she has found me because of the book. So um, it really kind of what has broadcast what I'm about in a way that I couldn't have if I just kept doing workshops and retreats.
I think the nice thing is when you have a book, it actually gives potential clients that you can work with the ability to know, like, and trust you without any pressure.
Right,
They're not sitting across the table from you trying to decide if they trust what you're doing.
right,
They've had that experience in their personal life, being able to sit and read the book, decide whether or not there's a connection between you so that they know whether your coaching method is for them. But one of the things I like too is that your voice really shines through in the book.
yeah,
You have this sweet personality, and the writing in the book really reflects that. And so I think when people do come to your retreats, they feel like they already know you. Do you find that to be the case?
I do. And I have really enjoyed it that several people have said your voice comes through. And that, some of those people know me and have said, you sound just like you, Susanna. It's like you're sitting next to me. And I'm not sure how that all came about, but I'm glad that it did. I'm glad that it did. I think that means that I wrote from the heart, which is what I intended to do.
Now, I know your original intention with your book as well was that you were going to self-publish. And then at the last minute, you kind of made a decision to go a different direction. How did that come about, and why did it come about?
Right. So I love this story because my book is all about trusting your inner voice and using your intuition. And that's how I got here. That's how I got to you, Tara. So I was using Create Space. I wanted to just get it done and get it down and get it out there, and felt that that was the quickest way to do it. And so I was ready to push the final button, say, I'm ready, print me my copies of my books. And I went to a very special retreat in Santa Fe. And the very last day, I found myself sitting next to a woman, Patty Lennon, who looked at me, and I explained her what I was doing and where I was in my book production. And she happens to be an intuitive coach. And she said, you need to give your book to an expert who will give it the type of treatment that it deserves. And truly, I was on the moment of just going where I had been headed. And I heard her and thought, she's right. And she said, I will give you the name of somebody that's the right person for your book. And your name was given to me, Tara, and Emerald Lake Books. And I think I got back to Maine and I called you. And I know for a fact, because I had from Create Space a draft of what the book would look like. And you and Mark Gerber created such a better book than it ever would have been. And it's, won, I can say this, right? 5 awards. And
Mhm.
I'm just so pleased. And if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't listened to Patty, who then I had to check in with my own voice, and you were the right people.
Well, we truly have enjoyed working with you on it. And of course, yes, it's won all those awards. We just announced earlier today that it's one of the top sellers of 2019. So, it's one of those things that I know it's brought you a lot of visibility. I think it's also kind of helped you a bit with clarity as to what you want to be doing with your business as you reinvigorate Ruby Slippers. You mentioned that you had your Liller Consulting and that you're kind of transitioning out of that now. So, how are you finding it in helping you really identify where you want to go with Ruby Slippers at this point?
Well, so it's interesting because it's been a journey, right? You publish, you're so focused on publishing and you get it out there. And, I work with you and Mark, and we had a lot of work to do. And you helped me through the publishing, through the launch, through the putting together a plan. But as you're out there with the book and living life, things continue to change. And it was this year that I decided I would end my consulting. But then initially I had thought I would be, because I've always been a coach and an executive coach, I thought, yeah, I'll continue coaching, and that's what I'll do, and I'll do it over Zoom or over the phone. Um, and then I thought, no, I really don't want to just do coaching because I love working with groups. And then I've also realized I love working in person with people. So it has changed. It has changed so that what I first saw as being more removed and coaching over the phone is now I want to find ways, venues that I can be with women. And I feel like with women, especially the group process, women learn so much from each other. So not only do they have the book as a foundation, I'm offering tools, I'm providing a a place for them to do the work, but then they're learning from each other. So um, yeah, that's what I want to keep doing. Groups of women all over, wherever I can find a way.
And I do find that groups of women can always be very, very powerful. I had an experience not a couple of years ago with a friend of mine who was a coach, and she was doing a kind of retreat that wasn't really something that I would pick and choose to go to by myself, but because she was doing it, I decided to go. And it was an interesting retreat where we got these women together, and there were a bunch of different exercises that we did together. And I think it wasn't as much, there was self-discovery going on, but there was also that sense of not being alone. There were certain exercises that would take place. Like there was this one thing where we all stood in a circle and somebody would share an experience from their past and just a brief phrase. And for everyone in the group who had experienced that, they would walk around the outside of the circle until they got back to their space. And as time went on, the things that were being shared were more and more painful as to the experiences that they had had in their life. And then you would see all of these people who were all having gone through that experience as well, who were sharing in that solidarity of walking around the circle together. And it was just one of those things that I walked away at the end thinking, some of the things that have happened in my life that have been very, very hard and can often be isolating, to think I'm not the only one who's ever been through this, or I'm not the only one who feels this way. And I think that when women can get together and support one another in that way, it can become a very powerful thing. So the kind of workshops that you're talking about doing certainly do have a place in the personal development of women as we try and kind of accept who we are and how we operate in the world and become better versions of who we want to be.
Yeah. I'm, what I want to do is encourage women to be who they are. I think that's what we need, not, what we should be or what the world is telling us to be or contorting ourselves into some place where it's not us, but we need to be who we are. And that's what the world needs.
I agree. So if somebody had written a book and they were thinking about maybe trying to produce a workshop series to go along with their book, do you have any advice for them as to where to start in doing that?
So, of course, I did it the other way around.
I know.
Well, certainly, if there are certain tenets to the book that you want people to understand, then to look for ways, exercises that they can learn those tenets, practice them. I mean, so often what in self-development we need to do is find a safe place to practice this stuff. So to practice finding confidence or practice trusting your intuition. And there's a lot of, if you don't have the exercises yourself, you can certainly find them because they're out there. So many people have and are gracious about sharing them. So
Mhm.
I think really, what are the 5 things or 10 things that you want people to really get from your book? And then how can you put together something, an agenda that reinforces those things and gets them to remember them and to learn them?
And then if they want to do the opposite, they have a workshop and they want to create a book, which is how you did it. Do you have advice for that scenario as well?
Right. So then it's just start writing as though you were, what I did, in which you encouraged, well, I had already written the book, but then you helped me fine tune it and make it better by having me write a letter to my, what was the, how did you put it?
Ideal reader.
Ideal reader. Boy, that's a really great exercise. And you just picture the person you're writing the book for. And when I did it, when I did that exercise, again, even though I had written the book, I needed to make it better. And I did that ideal reader exercise, and I pictured a young woman who I had worked with as an executive coach, working for a company that didn't appreciate her, and wanting her to know the things that I said in the book about how she is a heroine. She has left her comfort zone. She has gone on an adventure to discover her true self and really bring that to the fore. And it really helped me by imagining her. So I would have them do that exercise.
That is one of our favorite exercises as well. And much like you, as much as we're not really a coach per se, because we're a publisher, we do offer coaching services to our authors. And so when I wrote Publish with Purpose, it was kind of the same thing. We were taking a coaching program we were already doing, and we cherry picked kind of what are the exercises that resonate the most and that are going to have the broadest benefit and appeal to readers. And those were the things that we included in the book. There's certainly a lot of other homework assignments you got along the way, uh, but but choosing the ones that are going to help people on their own the most. I think one of the things that coaches sometimes worry about is offering too much information, and then somebody's not going to want to have to work with them. But in my opinion, it's better to offer that and have the goodwill, have them recommend the book to somebody else who does want to work with you than to hold things back. So I don't
Well,
know.
in my experience working with you or with any coach, I mean, you have the choice. You can tell them, hey, hold back. I can't do this right now. Let's come up with a better schedule. I would rather have it all given to me than for you to hold back. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, Susanna, it's been a pleasure talking with you today. I really appreciate you taking the time to share a little bit of your experience in terms of workshops to books and books to workshops. Hopefully there's somebody listening who may have an interest in doing that themselves. If they do, I sure hope that you reach out to Emerald Lake Books to be able to have a conversation with us. But Susanna, thanks so much for being on today.
Thank you, Tara. And can I just say to your listeners that I would be thrilled to talk to anybody who might be interested in working with Emerald Lake Books and tell them about my experience.
Thank you, Susanna. You've always been a huge champion for us, and I really appreciate that.
Was a very positive experience, so it would be easy.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right. And so for those who are interested, next week when we have our next live stream, it's going to be next Friday at 3 p.m. We are going to talk about how to write a book when you don't like writing. We often hear different people talk about the fact that they haven't written a book, even though they feel that they need one or should have one, but they hate writing. So how do you go about getting that done? Well, we're going to share a few tips and ideas as to how to do that. In the meantime, Happy New Year, and I hope that you have a prosperous end of the year and beginning to the new year. Thank you.